Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Representatives from the Vermont State Police say that an accused serial thief is finally in custody this week after he led authorities on a wild 2-week chase, one that involved quite a number of allegedly stolen vehicles. According to reports, it all started on August 24th when 52-year-old Eric Edson allegedly carried out an armed robbery at a retail store in the city of Burlington. He managed to escape from the scene and wasn't spotted again until August 30th when police apparently found him passed out in a running car, the same one he had reportedly used in the robbery. Police managed to wake Edson up, though before they could do anything, he slammed on the gas and took off, striking 2 officers in the process. Thankfully, it appears both were okay. The chase continued later that night when Edson was spotted on foot in a nearby area. The 52-year-old ran a short distance before hopping on a bicycle, which he then swapped out for a sailboat. After taking the boat onto Lake Champlain, Edson was confronted by the Coast Guard, who were able to run him aground at the base of some cliffs, though once again, he was able to get away. Over the next week, Edson would continue to evade police, leaving behind a trail of additional stolen vehicles that reportedly included a full-size John Deere tractor and a dump truck. Finally, on September 7th, authorities would catch a lucky break when they received a tip from a member of the public who had seen Edson in a stolen kayak on the Lamoille River near the town of Georgia. He was still in the kayak when police arrived, and though he abandoned the boat and tried to swim away, he was arrested on the southern bank of the river close to Georgia Mountain Road. He was subsequently taken to a local hospital to be treated for injuries he sustained during the chase. According to reports, Edson is now facing more than a dozen charges linked to both the armed robbery and the lengthy police pursuit, including assault and robbery with a weapon, grand larceny, eluding law enforcement, unauthorized use of a boat, careless and negligent operation of a vessel, reckless or grossly negligent operation of a vehicle, and simple assault on a protected professional.
Authorities in Pennsylvania say that they are on high alert after an extremely dangerous convicted murderer managed to escape from prison and has so far eluded police for the better part of 2 weeks. The whole situation began back on the morning of August 31st when 34-year-old Danilo Cavalcante broke out of the Chester County Prison, located roughly 27 miles from downtown Philadelphia. In footage released to the public following the escape, Cavalcante can be seen walking into a secluded part of the prison yard and looking around to make sure he was alone before positioning himself between 2 walls and beginning a vertical climb. Once at the top of the walls, he scaled over some razor wire, then jumped from a roof to a less secure area of the prison, allowing him to make his escape. Immediately after realizing that Cavalcante was missing, authorities launched a large manhunt. Residents in a 6-mile radius were put on high alert, and some schools were closed down as it became clear just how dangerous the situation was. According to reports, just a week before his escape, Cavalcante had been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the brutal killing of his former girlfriend, 33-year-old Deborah Brandau. Cavalcante reportedly stabbed Deborah more than a dozen times outside of her home near Philadelphia in front of her 2 young children. It's believed that Cavalcante, who is an illegal immigrant from Brazil, carried out the heinous crime because he believed Deborah was going to tip authorities off that he was wanted for another murder that he allegedly committed back in his native country in 2017. Though Cavalcante has been spotted several times since his escape, so far he has managed to avoid capture. Several images have now been released of the 34-year-old while on the run, including footage recorded by trail cameras in the Longwood Botanical Gardens, where authorities have conducted extensive searches. Terrifyingly, the last available images of Cavalcante, which were taken by a Ring doorbell camera in East Pikeland Township in the early morning hours of September 10th, suggest that he has managed to obtain new clothes and has taken steps to alter his appearance, including going clean-shaven. Police say that they also believe he has now obtained a vehicle. At the time of this recording, the manhunt is entering its 12th day, and more than 400 law enforcement officers have joined the search. Anyone with information concerning Cavalcante's whereabouts is encouraged to contact police immediately.
Authorities in San Antonio, Texas say that a local couple were put through a terrifying ordeal this week when they were the victims of a violent home invasion and kidnapping, a crime which allegedly happened in front of their children. According to reports, the harrowing situation began just after 6 o'clock in the morning on September 6th, when a group of armed men showed up at the home of married couple 38-year-old Samantha Esquivel Zuniga and her 37-year-old husband Ricky Zuniga. After breaking down the door of the residence, at least 2 of the suspects allegedly held Samantha and Ricky at gunpoint, ordering them outside to a waiting white SUV, which then drove off with them inside. When police arrived at the scene, they were met by the couple's 5 children, all of whom were under the age of 17. The kids had reportedly witnessed the entire traumatic situation as it unfolded. The disturbing kidnapping quickly prompted a widespread search, with the public asked for any information that might move the case forward. At the same time, Ricky and Samantha's worried friends and family members made their own desperate pleas on social media. The situation finally came to an end the following day, when police managed to track the alleged kidnappers to a home in San Antonio's southwest side. Upon arriving at the scene, multiple suspects apparently attempted to flee, allowing Ricky and Samantha to emerge safely from the residence. The pair were reportedly evaluated by a medical team and have since been reunited with their kids. As for the suspects, police say that 2 people were arrested at the scene. They have since been identified as 40-year-old Felipe Valdez and 29-year-old Xavier Martinez. A third man is also reportedly wanted in connection with the kidnapping, though he apparently remains on the run. While no official motive has been released behind this week's terrifying events, there are unconfirmed reports from a local news outlet that suggest that at the time of the kidnapping, the suspects might have been looking for money. It's alleged that one of the victim's sisters had recently dated a man who gave her a large sum of money to store at their residence. However, roughly a week before the crime, she took the cash and went to Mexico. Again, though, at the time of this recording, this information has not been confirmed. Currently, Valdez and Martinez remain in custody, though it's unclear what formal charges they're now facing.
Representatives from Nebraska's Lancaster County Sheriff's Office are reminding the public of the dangers of drinking and driving this week after they released body cam footage from a DUI stop earlier this year that was as unbelievably terrifying as it was unbelievably stupid. According to reports, it all started one night back in March when the sheriff's office received a 911 call from a man who said that he needed to report some dangerous driving. He said he was traveling down a section of Highway 77 in Lancaster County and had just had an extremely close call with a truck, which he claimed was traveling in the wrong direction and had nearly run him off the road. Though the man appeared genuinely rattled by what had happened on the phone, what he didn't realize was that the dangerous driving he was reporting was in fact his own. You see, he was the one on the wrong side of the road. He just didn't know it because he was drunk. Thanks to the very accurate coordinates that the man was able to provide about his location, he was quickly spotted by a Lancaster sheriff's deputy who pulled him over. It was only at this point that the driver apparently started to piece together what had actually happened. When asked if he knew why he'd been pulled over, the man replied, quote, "Yeah, because I was on the wrong side of the road." He tried to claim that it was because he had missed an exit. Understandably, this explanation did not cut it, especially when the driver was found to have a blood alcohol content of twice the legal limit. After being arrested, the man admitted that he had essentially called 911 on himself, leading to this ridiculous exchange.
Were you the one that called in?
Yep.
You were?
Yeah, because I thought somebody was on the wrong side of the road, bro.
But it turned out it was you.
Yep, look at dumb.
At the time of this recording, the driver's name has not been released.
Authorities in Cook County, Illinois said that a 24-year-old man is facing murder charges this week after he cruelly and unnecessarily killed a woman by obstructing her breathing with a zip tie during the middle of a carjacking. According to reports, the incident began on the morning of August 30th when police in the village of Harwood Heights were called to the home of 61-year-old Ma L. Operio. A concerned neighbor called 911 after seeing Ma on the ground outside of her residence, struggling with a man in a black hoodie who appeared to be choking her. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Ma unconscious with a zip tie fastened around her throat. After removing the plastic device and performing CPR, they were able to revive her, though sadly she had been deprived of oxygen for too long and was declared brain dead at a local hospital. Ma ultimately passed away 4 days later after her family made the heartbreaking decision to take her off of life support. Investigators now say that Ma's completely unnecessary murder was carried out by 24-year-old Reese Miller, who wanted her blue Toyota Scion. Ma had been cleaning the vehicle at around 6:30 on the morning of the crime when Miller allegedly attacked her. He reportedly fastened the zip tie around her throat before moving her body and then driving away with the vehicle's trunk still open. Police caught up with Miller around 3 hours later in the village of Crete, roughly 37 miles from the crime scene. At the time, he was still driving the stolen vehicle and was reportedly in possession of a knife and a handwritten note. In the note, the 24-year-old apparently offered a bizarre and poorly worded apology for the crime, saying in part that he was, quote, deeply sorry for hurting anyone. At the moment, it seemed to be the only choice. He went on to write, quote, I didn't want to hurt people. It was never something I ever thought possible until the realization of reality hit me. Reese was further identified thanks to surveillance camera video taken from near the crime scene, and allegedly admitted to police during his arrest that he was the man in the footage. He has since been charged with attempted first-degree murder and aggravated vehicular hijacking, though it is expected that these charges will now be updated in light of Ma's death.
Representatives from the United States Coast Guard say that a Florida man is facing federal charges this week after he caused numerous problems for them and made threats when they attempted to rescue him from an ill-considered and likely fatal voyage across the Atlantic Ocean in a device that has been likened to a human-sized hamster wheel. According to reports, the whole thing started sometime on August 26th when the Coast Guard was sent to rescue 44-year-old Reza Bellucci, who had been spotted in the water roughly 70 miles off the coast of Tybee Island, Georgia. When officials arrived, they discovered Bellucci inside of a large metal drum that had been equipped with paddles as well as buoys to keep it afloat. The thing operated by Bellucci running on the inside of the drum and rotating it, much like a giant hamster wheel. Authorities quickly learned that the bizarre contraption was not properly registered in any way, though this was really the least of their concerns. The thing just looked like a death trap, and as a result, the Coast Guard informed Bellucci he was conducting a manifestly unsafe voyage, and that they would be cutting the whole thing short. Bellucci, however, apparently had no intention of stopping. He said that he was going to run all the way to London, England, and refused to disembark from the hamster wheel. Things escalated when he allegedly threatened to take his own life with a large knife, and he also claimed that he had a bomb aboard. This ridiculous situation reportedly went on for a whopping 6 days, until finally Bellucci admitted he did not have explosives and agreed to get out of the hamster wheel. He apparently did so at the U.S. Coast Guard base in Miami Beach, Florida. He was then arrested and is now facing federal charges of obstruction of a boarding and violation of a captain of the port order. According to reports, this is far from the first time Bellucci has tried his giant hamster wheel stunt. He apparently did similar things in 2014, 2016, and 2021. Every single one so far has ended with the Coast Guard getting involved. It appears that the 44-year-old doesn't have any plans of stopping either. He says he does this to raise money for numerous charitable causes and organizations, one of which, ironically, is the U.S. Coast Guard.
Representatives from Alabama's Cullman County Sheriff's Office say that they've been left shaken to their very core this week after one of their own deputies allegedly shot and killed another one of their employees before turning his weapon on himself. According to reports, the incident began at around 2:45 a.m. on September 7th, when police in the city of Orange Beach were called about a shooting in the common area of a condo building at the Seaside Beach and Racquet Club. Officers arrived to find two people, a man and a woman, who were both suffering from gunshot wounds. Sadly, both were pronounced dead at the scene. The man and woman in question were quickly identified as Kenneth Booth Jr. and 23-year-old Alexis Lexi White. The pair were a couple and were supposed to be enjoying a beach vacation at the time. Witnesses alleged that in the moments before the shooting, Kenneth and Lexi got into a heated argument. The nature of that argument has not been revealed. However, what we do know is that it escalated to the point where Kenneth pulled out a handgun, after which he allegedly shot Lexi several times before turning the weapon on himself. Following initial reports about the incident, Kenneth and Lexi were also identified as employees of the Cullman County Sheriff's Office. Kenneth worked as a deputy at the sheriff's office, while Lexi was a dispatcher. The situation reportedly came as a stunning blow not only to friends and family, but also to those that worked with the couple. In the aftermath of the crime, Sheriff Matt Gentry released a statement about the department's shock and devastation, saying in part, quote, "Lexi has been a part of the Cullman County Sheriff's Office since she was 16. She was a charter member in our Youth Leadership Academy and was involved in every one after that, either as a participant or coach. There are not enough words to express what she and her family mean to me. I am literally heartbroken. I feel like Lexi is one of my own kids." At the time of this recording, the situation is still under investigation.
Authorities in Polk County, Florida say that a 37-year-old man is in custody in connection with a truly heinous murder this week after he allegedly killed his own teenage son with a power tool. According to reports, the chilling incident unfolded on the morning of September 4th when 67-year-old Thomas Rhoda left his mobile home in the city of Lake Wales to visit his wife in rehab. At the time, his 16-year-old grandson, who was living with him, Stephen Lee Rhoda, was supposed to be home alone. However, when Thomas returned, he was confronted outside by his son, 37-year-old Stephen Thomas Rhoda. Disturbingly, Rhoda said, quote, "I wouldn't go in there if I was you. I killed someone. You may need to call the police." Knowing that his son had a history of making strange comments, Thomas initially didn't know what to think until he entered the mobile home and was confronted by a horrifying scene. In the dining room was the body of his teenage grandson, who had obviously been the victim of a brutal attack. Authorities now say that the attack was carried out with an angle grinder. After Thomas called 911, Rhoda was arrested while attempting to flee the scene. He has now been charged with murder, though no motive behind the crime has been released at this time. The whole situation got even more bizarre when Rhoda made his first court appearance this week. During his brief time in front of the judge, the 37-year-old reportedly tried to give a fake name, falsely claimed that he had a pardon in Montana, and stated that he owned the NFL. At the time of this recording, Rhoda remains in custody. He apparently has a history of using methamphetamine dating back to when he was in high school and has had prior psychotic episodes. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.